One of the things we've covered a lot on my channel over the years is the problems that companies have continuously faced because of these Brexit barriers, and the way that the companies have had to try and negotiate the new realities that Brexit has now created. And bear in mind, none of these things that Brexit has created, these new barriers to trade that has suddenly just sprung up, are a good thing. Every single time they have proven to be an overwhelming negative. And it starts from the fact, first things first, it's now cost you even more money to send stuff over into Europe to your European customers. You have to pay extra for all the paperwork. You have to pay extra for the transport cost. You have to pay extra just to be able to even access the very systems that would enable you to trade with the EU. And bear in mind, that's not EU, it's having to access a governmental system so that you can put in your information, which, bear in mind, hope that you actually do have the right information, because still, if you have to put in a question to the government organization responsible for trade, guess what? You've still got to be waiting a week or more for a response. And you've got to hope that they give you the right response. So just sending stuff is a nightmare, and it's become an even bigger nightmare if you get your materials, or, as we'll find out in this case, let's say you send your goods to another company in the EU to have sort of be dyed or something else, something that isn't sort of available in the UK. We see this all the time with sort of engines. Look how many times engines flick back and forth all around the EU, and including, again, back and forth to the UK. And that was all because of sort of just-in-time delivery systems. These problems that companies are facing are becoming an ever-increasing nightmare. And their only solutions sometimes is either A, you give up, in which case we have seen that. So companies have lost between 30 to 40% of their business, which is huge. You set up a distribution center somewhere in Europe and hope that works out, because we've seen some cases over the years that hasn't helped, that hasn't worked. Or you sell up and you just move to Europe. You move the entire company over to Europe, and that's your only recourse. And that is the reality that British companies are now having to face. And this whole idea of, oh, you can just do trade with the rest of the world, doesn't work like that. Does not work like that at all. You can't just suddenly go to Japan and go, hey, look, I've got this amazing product, buy it from us. Doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. Brexiteers seem to always talk about how amazing they are at business, but whenever they talk about it in such simplistic terms. And someone like me, who ran my own business a couple of years ago now, looks at that and just goes, what on earth are these people doing? How did they ever manage to succeed in business? But of course, you then realize they never really did succeed in business, or at least their stories of success are vastly overinflated. So today we're going to have a look at one unfortunate case of Brexit destroying a historical company. This company has been around for over 200 years, and yet it was destroyed by Brexit. And in a letter from its own managing director, it says it feels like it's been taken out by its own side. So let's have a quick look through this letter. But oh boy, this isn't good. And I guarantee you, because this went viral, it would be fun to see Keir Starmer or someone in Parliament put this to Rishi Sunak, what he thinks about this. That would be very, very interesting. But anyway, before we do go over this, like I say, please do remember to click on that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee. We can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel. And of course, on with this. So this was a letter to the Financial Times. And like I say, it's just very recently gone viral yesterday. But it was written by one Charles Mason, who's the managing director of Cluny Lace, one of Britain's oldest lace manufacturers. So let's see what he had to say. So, good luck to those British companies who want to import from the EU when the post-Brexit customs checks soon to start. Again, this was sort of written in response to an article in the Financial Times saying that Sunak seeks fresh talks with the EU after the rout of Tory Eurosceptics, reported back on March the 24th. And oh boy, are these checks, when they come into force, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, are we going to see some absolute chaos ensue? Because if companies think it's hard now, they ain't, pardon me, they ain't seen nothing yet. So it continues. In our case, after a recent audit, HMR Revenue and Customs has decided to levy an 8% duty on the return of all the lace that we have manufactured in the UK, sent to France for then dyeing, and then back for further finishing. That is a very typical thing that you see happening in UK companies sometimes. They start one process, they don't necessarily have the equipment or the expertise to sort of do the next part, so they then send it to a different company. Most of that time, it tends to be in Europe. Now, that's been locked off. That expertise, and if you want to do that, well, you've now got to pay extra, sometimes a lot more. And even in this case here, where this company now has to pay 8%, an extra 8% duty levy on this. How much extra is all this going to cost? And it gets even worse, because as they say here, this is backdated to over 2 years when Brexit started. So all of a sudden, that's a whole chunk of change this company suddenly had to pay out. They're now, remember, having to pay an extra 8%. Unfortunately, they don't say what that cost is, but as we normally tend to find out later on, and trust me, I'm sure we're going to probably see a more fuller story in the fullness of time, probably very soon. So don't worry, when that comes out, I will certainly be looking for it. Just like I say, I would love to know sort of deeper in behind sort of what's going on here. But this company is absolutely being taken to the wall because of Brexit. So we have spent more than 200 years building our business, and we've fought for over 30 years against the global textile trend of moving to the Far East, but have now been killed off by our own side in just a couple of years. We all lose. And that's the reality. That is the reality now for that company. You know, he said it this: we've been killed off by our own side. We fought against a global trend for over 30 years of moving, textiles over to the Far East. We fought against that. We've kept jobs here in the UK. Something that Brexiteers wanted and apparently said during the 2016 referendum they wanted to do. But certainly joining the Pacific Partnership is going to massively encourage a big exodus of businesses over to there. You're going to see jobs move out because, well, hey, you've got this Pacific Partnership deal, right? Well, now it's cheaper to, import rather than actually make the goods here. That's the reality. This is the sad reality that many businesses are now facing. And the Brexiteers do not seem to understand the consequences of their actions, nor what they have even done. And as I've said before, I am increasingly worried about what we have actually signed up to with the Pacific Partnership deal. And until we actually see the final draft, who knows what we have signed up to in the Pacific Partnership? And oh boy, if it is bad as many people are suspecting, as I myself do suspect, there is going to be an awful kickback, a massive kickback against being in this. You think that the that being in the EU was bad? Trust me, the EU was an absolute godsend. It wasn't perfect. As someone who is even pro EU, the EU is not perfect, but I'll tell you what, it's better than anything else out there, and the Pacific Partnership is about to prove that in spades. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.